Only felt right to get a little bit of a vintage style item on for this one. So, smart marketing tactics for vintage. Now, I'm aware that a lot of you that are watching this might not be with your own brand, might not be interested in the marketing side of things, and I'm still in that point where I'm just figuring out whether everything's like teaching or if it's just going to be some lessons, or maybe some of the content is going to be a little bit more mindful towards the topic. But today we're back on business stuff. So marketing tactics for vintage. I can speak about this based on the fact that for 7 to 8 years of the business, I was running an incredible amount of adverts. I was doing so many different marketing processes. It was imperative. At the time, I thought I had to do it, to my knowledge, but I did a lot, and I learned different things along the way. Sometimes I was putting an idea out that I didn't think was a smart marketing idea, but it was too late to do. Again, go and watch some of the earlier videos about like the momentum of the business and stuff, kind of give an understanding as to like where I went and, you know, why maybe I lost control of it or whatever. Anyway, smart marketing tactics for vintage. So the main point is to focus on the for vintage element right now. So when we think of smart tactics for vintage, we have to also remember that vintage is separate to secondhand. That's a nice one. It's separate to secondhand. All vintage is typically secondhand as a byproduct, but all secondhand is not vintage. Vintage is based on the time and era. I would typically say anything from 2000 and before the Y2K is when I would say that vintage was kicked in. Others would say it's the 1920s. Others would say a lot of other things. But realistically, vintage is, the way to define it is, it's an age relative factor. If it was made yesterday, it's not vintage. So it kind of just allows there to be a separation from fast fashion. And before I get into so is there going to be vintage Zara at some point? Based on a cycle of time, if it somehow manages to stay in circulation and still be wearable in 25 years, then you could say vintage Zara if you wanted to, but I'm not going to get complicated with vintage secondhand and things like that. Vintage, for those that know, I'm going to make more videos outlining that later on. But for now, smart tactics for marketing vintage. So this one's super key because, again, I'm going to call this inside the box thinking. And the reason why I'm going to call that is because so many people will spend so long trying to do what they think everybody else isn't doing, and then by default they end up doing the same as what everybody's doing. You know, let me pick an obscure shop, let me pick a funny model, let me put a concept behind it. And that's fantastic because it's showing creative and God, I sounded a bit salty then. I don't sound salty. What I'm trying to get to is that what a lot of people think their content does isn't actually how it conveys later on. So when you think about marketing tactics for vintage, the one pitfall I think that's the biggest pitfall, I think, is to advertise a specific product. So I'll go back to what I said about the models actually. Models have always, to me, created a feel and a vibe and an atmosphere from a brand. So whenever I've seen models on an ad to brands that I'm not aware of, I'm a bit different because every time I see an advert, I just know it's an advert, and I probably can't enjoy the escaping of it really. But models allow you to get a feel for a brand, whereas a specific item gets you to almost home in like a sniper on what this brand might have to offer. Is it Stussy? Is it Nike box logo? Is it Stone Island? Is it CP? Or is it Jack Wills, Superdry and Bench? Who knows? Most of the time, like with individual product usage, what you find with vintage is that if you are advertising a specific product, you are shortening the life of the advert's validity its succession and its conversion, because if people are looking for a set product, they will basically be unhappy unless they see that product. I did this before where for a while back in about 2016, I used models with set items, and I did like loads of campaigns on specific models and specific items because I thought I was selling a feel. And I think I was, but to the detriment of that, I was always selling like a specific product. I wasn't trying to sell a lifestyle through a brand. Like, you know, to be fair, we did loads of different things, but in the moment I'm talking about, when about 2016, I was definitely not in that mindset that was doing that. And I think it's better to put myself in the mindset that I'm assuming some of you might be watching this are thinking, or that you might have already been a part of. Anyway, time, I've got reflection, and I'm bringing it back to you. So smart tactics, smart marketing tactics for vintage, I would say, is to simplify the feel factor of your brand to the customer. How easily can you get a feel of who you are? How easy can you guarantee a consistency with that feel? So does the experience of your advert lead through to your website, to the checkout, to the social media presence, to the post email, like the post order email, the way that you're spoken to through the brand? How does that, you know, did you see an advert because they just called everybody in the advert matey, and the whole thing with the brand is that they'll email them like, hey matey, they don't use names. You know, that's super bespoke, but people want to feel like they're a part of something. And I think the feel at the beginning is a little bit like people like internet dating. As much as people don't want to like swipe and judge somebody based on how they look, if you've only got what somebody looks like, you just go straight on what you see straight away rather than what it feels. So with the same experience with ads by brands that are trying to sell you a feel, in that first 5 seconds, you will know whether this is a brand you'd mess with or not, because you will know if you are relatable to that. So for me, for example, I'm not trying to be a brand anymore. I'm trying to be a brand, but I'm not trying to build a brand. I'm just using me as the beacon for the knowledge that I'm spreading to you guys, and doing it like that. But the one thing that people can't take away from me is it's like, this is just me. So like the feel of me, if you don't like the feel of me, I can't really do much about that. You might be like, I don't know what it is about, like, you know, that scene in Step Brothers, like, really good job. I don't know what it is, but I want to punch you in the face. Obviously, I hope nobody wants to punch me in the face. That would just be like unnecessarily aggressive. But what I'm saying is that not everybody that sees the videos of me posting is going to go, I like this guy, he speaks with a nice tone, or I like this guy, he's got facts. Some people are going to be like, oh, I don't like this because I don't need somebody to talk to me like thinking he's teaching me something. I don't like this for X, Y, and Z. And all of those outcomes are perfectly fine. So when we come back to the brand analogy and we come back to the feel of it, and it's not just a person advertising themselves, or it's not just a personal brand, maybe it's the guy who runs the brand is narrating over a clip of him building a mystery box or looking at some orders he's had, whatever it is, he's trying to get you to feel something with that. So one of the big things is like dumb down, double down, triple down, whatever the downs, on the feel of your first experience. Go, like, if you have got a brand, right, and you want to release a TikTok advert, go into a coffee shop, just go and ask 5 people who look somewhat cool and say, I'm really sorry to bother you. Can you just watch this? And just assume that it's not anything that, like, it's not me in front of you that I need your feedback, but like, be honest. What do you think of this? And sometimes that's all you need, for someone to go, it was nice, it was quite aggressive, it was this. And if a few people that you have no idea who they are and they have no idea who you are give you some sort of feedback, you go, you've got that outer perspective very quickly. That should be a TikTok idea. Rather than telling if you've got like a team of people who work for you, rather than showing the team of people, just get one of the team members to go into a coffee shop and show the video to 5 people and be like, I showed it to a 30-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 50-year-old, and this is what they all individually said. Like, most people are happy to just take 30 seconds to do that. And by doing that, you'd understand and know where the feel of your brand is. And obviously, we're just talking about a vintage company now. So this is super extensive. Super, super extensive. So one tactic, two tactics actually, get out there and get feelings for like what people think in person. Go and show somebody. I wouldn't, if I was doing that now, I wouldn't feel two ways to most of the people that I see, whether it's in a coffee shop, whether it's like at a gym if somebody wasn't working out, wherever I might be in them one moment, if I have an interaction with somebody, I'd be like, sorry for a really random one. We're in a waiting room at a doctor's or something. I know you're probably thinking about like what you're about to go into for there. You've got 5 minutes to watch a video on this. If you don't ask, you don't get. So if you're obviously trying to market yourself as a brand, understand what the normal people around you in your normal life think about it. Make sure that you're focusing on a feel, because I think that if you have a feel, you don't have to put so much pressure, like you don't have to build this pedestal like, I will have like 100 Palace items by next week, I will have all this Givenchy, and we are getting YSL bags and all this. Like, that's wicked. If that's where your trajectory is, like, mad. The way that designer people, like people are advertising their designer, is interesting. There's some people who run brands that I'm definitely going to be having conversations with, hopefully, as long as they're happy to, on this, that do sell designer. But to get back to the point, because I'm just getting excited now, marketing tactics to market vintage. Think inside of the box. Don't advertise just one product. Don't advertise that. Focus on the feel and home in on what that feel feels like, and actually go and ask real people that are in the world what they think of it. I know it seems like really daunting, like, why would I just go up to somebody and ask them what they think? Imagine if that one person gives you one bit of feedback that changes the whole way the video that you put out to the world works, and it's successful. You don't need to think, what if I didn't do that? Or, you know, go with the flow of the feel, the same way that you want people to invest in you for the flow and the feel. That is probably enough of a point on that one. That one's a massive point. And I can't even stress the importance of that. The feel. The feel is everything. In a world where people don't know what they feel anymore, feeling is everything. I'm not going to be too much of a... I'm thinking about this now, and I think it's interesting. Yeah, feel. Go with that. See how you get on.